Good morning. My name is Bob O'Hara, and I'm just an ordinary American citizen with no experience in politics or government. I'm just someone who had become completely frustrated with Washington's inability to work together to solve problems and deal with the issues that are important to the American people. Several years ago, I just decided to get up off the couch and try to do something about it. Not knowing anything about Washington or how it works, I began a journey to learn more about what I could do as a citizen to be a voice for change. What I'm going to share with you this morning is the story of my journey, what I've learned, and the advice I've been given that I can share with you if you choose to get up off the couch as well and become a voice for change. At the time I decided I wanted to do something, I was trying to find a place where I could become an effective voice for this. And at that same moment, I ran across an organization called No Labels that was forming. This group was a group of Democrats, Republicans, and independents that said, look, we are approaching governing the wrong way. We need to come together to figure out how we're going to solve these problems and put our country before our party. This was a message that resonated with me. So I went to their very first meeting in Washington in 2011. And at that meeting, there was a speaker who gave a presentation about how you communicate with your representatives. Now, I was extremely skeptical that that's how it would work, especially from someone who had never been involved at all when it came to politics or government. But I said, I made this commitment, I'm going to give it a try. So I did what he said. Well, long story short, here I stand today. I've been to Washington now 8 times. I have met with the congressional staff of every single district here in Massachusetts. I have met with the senatorial staff of our last 4 senators. I have visited almost every congressional district office in our state. It can happen. You can become a voice. What I've learned from everyone I've talked to is this simple question which surprised me. Everyone asks, where does everybody go after Election Day? I didn't realize how quiet it is after Election Day when people communicate with their representatives. Basically what happens, and what the staff will tell me, is that they see people engaged in elections very actively and very passionately. And then the day after Election Day, they disappear until 3 months before the next election. And so what they're saying is, where do they go? And how can we get them engaged and become a voice again? Because we don't hear from them. What we do hear from are very organized groups on the far right and the far left that are organized. And it's their voice that stays engaged through the entire process of that governing period. So we need to become more of a voice. And let me tell you now what they've kind of shared and how you can go about doing that. First and foremost, you don't have to go to Washington to have your voice heard. You can go to your congressional district offices here in Massachusetts. That is where the change is going to come from. Washington will not change by itself. The constituents in the districts here have to make their voices heard. The most effective place to do that are in the congressional district offices. Stephen Lynch, who represents this community, is in South Boston. Catherine Clark is in Medford. Seth Moulton's in Peabody. You can walk into those offices anytime you want and make your voice heard. That's the first step. If you don't have time to go to a congressional district office, I'm going to share with you what the staff told me is the best way to get their attention because they get so much email. The second thing is, if you want to get engaged, you don't have to be a policy expert. You have to be an expert in your life. They have plenty of people around them that can talk policy and solutions. What they want to hear is how your life is impacted by what they're doing or not doing. Your personal story is the most valuable piece of information that you can provide to them. And if you're willing to do that, they're willing to listen to you. The other thing is, keep in mind the importance of the congressional staff. Again, from someone who never did this before, I really didn't know the levels in involvement. The congressional staff really are the eyes and the ears of the representatives and the senators. When you're getting involved in your district, you want to talk to the district director. They are the person who is responsible directly here to making sure that they understand what the concerns of their constituents are. So how is change going to happen? It really is going to come from these districts that I just referred to. We are going to have to stand up and make our voices heard in our communities and our towns. We're going to have to spread the word. And we're going to have to be patient and persistent. We're going to have to work at this in a way that you cannot give up after one try. You have to build relationships, and you have to let people know that you need and you want to see a change in the way we approach governing. So the question then is, how do you become an effective citizen advocate? And what can you do? And let me just give you this advice that the staff shared with me. Whenever you communicate with your representative or senator, this is the most important sentence you will ever use. I am a constituent from, and state the name and town that you live in. That gets their attention. It is the most important sentence in our representative government. When you make a phone call or you send an email or you write a letter, use that sentence first. Then you've got their attention. The reason why you do that is just because they're getting hit with so much spam from outside the districts. And they're trying to figure out, is this someone from my district trying to communicate with me? Or is this just a lot of noise that I'm getting hit with from around the country? So always use that sentence first because you will get their attention. Secondly, be very clear as to why you're writing, and then explain why that's important to you. Get to the point. Third, specifically ask your representative to do something. Point out, and they call this the ask. A staff person will always say to you, what's the ask? Be very clear of what action you want them to take, and so they know exactly what you're expecting of them. Fourth, share any local information you have about the district when it comes to a topic. So if you're aware of something going on in the district and you want to share that with them in context of what you're writing about, let them know about that. And finally then, when you sign off on your letter or email, put your address on that email. Because what you're doing again is you're emphasizing that you are a constituent who lives in the district. And what I never realized is that because they're getting so many emails, they're basically being scanned very quickly. If you've got that sentence at the top and your address at the bottom, they're going to realize this is from a constituent. It may not get read that moment, but we put off to a side as constituent correspondence, and someone will definitely read it. If you plan on ever going to meet with a representative, follow that same logic, follow that same pattern. You will never have more than probably 20 minutes, less than what I'm going to talk to you today. But it's pretty much this amount of time you're going to have to be able to spend with a representative or a staff person because of their time constraints. So you're going to need, again, to be succinct, to the point, and what you're there to talk about. But all of this can happen, and all of it has happened, and I've experienced myself firsthand from someone who never did this. Now, how have I put this into practice? Well, I've been involved now with No Labels since it was formed, and we have been committed over that period of time to bring a voice for a change in the way we approach governing. What we are looking for are people from all political perspectives to come together and be a voice for change in saying that first and foremost, what we should do now is establish a national strategic agenda where we establish real goals for our country. And then let's bring our viewpoints and our ideologies to how we would accomplish those goals. The National Strategic Agenda is made up of these specific 4 goals. And it was decided by polling the American people and asking them, what is it that's important to you? So these goals, as they are today, is create 25 million new jobs, career-oriented jobs over the next 10 years. Secure Social Security and Medicare financially for the next 75 years. Make America energy secure forever by 2024. And do all of this and still balance the federal budget by 2030. These are big goals to do all of that together. But we believe if you can bring America together around a shared goal and a shared process to achieve goals, we can then have all of our different perspectives brought to bear on how we will solve and accomplish these very big and significant goals for our country. Currently, there is a resolution that's been introduced into the House of Representatives as of April 2015 to specifically ask that these goals be established and that it's become a national strategic agenda. There are currently 45 co-sponsors of this resolution. We are looking now and we're asking our constituents to go out and talk to their representatives and ask them to become a co-signer, a co-sponsor on this resolution. Just this past week, a resolution was introduced into the Senate for the same thing, to create a same national strategic agenda. On Wednesday, I went to a hearing in Washington on this topic, a Senate hearing, where this topic was discussed and received favorably. And so we'll begin looking for more co-sponsors in the Senate to bring a voice to change and to achieving goals for our country. What am I doing here in Massachusetts? I'm initiating a mentoring program to bring people who would like to talk to their representatives and congressional staff to the district offices. I know most people have never been to district offices, and from the experience I'd like to share that with you, but not put people out there with saying, well, what is it going to be like and what do I have to say? I believe that if someone who's done this before can bring a group of people together and they can see what it's about, then they'll take their friends in the future and do the same thing. By doing this, we can build more voices, more people coming together, more people wanting to talk about the governing process between election days. So lastly, what I do encourage you to do is to give it a try. 4 years ago, I didn't think any of this was possible. And just again this past week, I had the chance to attend a Senate hearing and meet with the staff of 2 senators and 5 members of Congress from someone who had never done this before. Not only did I talk to him about the resolution that we'd like to see him co-sponsor, I told him about us here today. And I wanted to let them know that there are people in Massachusetts and around the country that are gathering to talk about this specific topic of how do we come together to solve problems for our country from all different backgrounds. And I will tell you, they were all very impressed and very intrigued by this. So there are our senators here in Massachusetts and our representatives know that we are here today talking about this topic. So finally, I'm just here to tell you that your voice does matter and we need to hear it. I'd like to end today with a quote from Bill McCulloch. William Bill McCulloch served in the House of Representatives from 1947 to 1973. He was a critical contributor to the passage of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. In fact, President Johnson described him as the most important, powerful force behind the legislation. Bill was a conservative Republican who represented the same district that John Boehner, the current Speaker of the House, represents. In 2010, the people of Ohio held an election to decide whose statue they would send to the U.S. Capitol to represent the Ohioan that contributed the most to our country. Bill McCulloch came in third, behind Thomas Edison and the Wright brothers. On October 12, 1971, Bill McCulloch, supporting passage of the Equal Rights Amendment, took to the House floor and said these words: "We are a nation of many people and views. In such a nation, the prime purpose of a legislator, from wherever he may come, is to accommodate the interests, desires, wants, and needs of all our citizens. To alienate some in order to satisfy others is not only a disservice to those we alienate, but a violation of the principles of our republic. Lawmaking is the reconciliation of divergent views. In a democratic society like ours, the purpose of representative government is to soften tension, reduce strife, while enabling groups and individuals to more nearly obtain the kind of life they wish to live." And he concluded, "The function of Congress is not to convert the will of the majority into law. Rather, its function is to hammer out on the anvil of public debate a compromise between polar positions acceptable to a majority." I'm here to tell you that your voice matters and we need to hear it. Thank you.